Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.
Some terror analysts say ISIS-K is not likely to be able to overthrow the Taliban, partly because the Taliban has a much larger number of fighters. And as many Western countries' relationship with the Taliban becomes increasingly tense, Beijing is having no such troubles. China and the Taliban are promising friendly relations, but for each side, it's a friendship in search of advantages.
Right now, many countries around the world are busy withdrawing their citizens from Afghanistan, but Beijing isn't one of them. According to a spokeswoman for China's foreign ministry, Chinese people in Afghanistan had already returned home before the current situation came to a head. Chinese media report that back in early July, a China-bound evacuation airplane left Afghanistan with 210 Chinese citizens on board. It's unclear if other Chinese airplanes were used for the same purpose. Aside from evacuations, Beijing and the Taliban have both expressed desires for friendly relations. In particular, since the Taliban seized Kabul, Beijing has described the Taliban's takeover as the choice of the Afghan people, while the Taliban voiced hopes that Beijing would contribute to its rebuilding effort. Earlier this week, China's foreign ministry spokesman promised that Beijing would take on an active role in Afghanistan. He also opposed current sanctions on the Taliban, instead advising the international community to help promote a smooth power transition in Afghanistan. But those aren't the only comments coming out of China on the subject. Beijing has kept up a constant stream of criticism toward the U.S., all for what it described as abandoning Afghanistan amid the crisis, though there may be a practical reason for Beijing's stability concerns in Afghanistan. China's Xinjiang region shares an almost 50-mile border with Afghanistan. Beijing seems to fear that instability in Afghanistan could make its way across the shared border. The communist regime has also long feared that Afghanistan could harbor Uyghur militants, groups that could threaten or attack the Xinjiang region. Last month, the Taliban promised never to allow any forces within its territory to engage in acts against China, but it remains to be seen how much control the group can exercise over the country. Analysts say that China-Taliban relations will in reality be more pragmatic in nature. That's compared to the friendliness portrayed by the media. A senior research fellow from the India-based USANAS Foundation, Frank Layberger, points out that the Taliban's main concern right now is cash flow, suggesting the new regime will be nice to China as long as Beijing foots the bill. Money is among the Taliban's most pressing challenges. That's because the U.S. has blocked its access to billions of dollars in Afghan federal reserves. Those funds are held in U.S. bank accounts, and the International Monetary Fund has also withheld $460 million in aid.
A Delaware state senator is proposing a new bill. It would allow minors to consent to receiving a COVID vaccine without their parents' approval. NTD's Kevin Hogan brings us more on which areas have similar rules and some of the potential benefits and challenges this can lead to.
State Senator Amanda Cappelletti of Delaware wants to let people 14 years of age or older decide for themselves if they want to be vaccinated. Her move comes after the FDA approved the Pfizer shot. As of May, 41 states require parental consent for minors under 18 to get the vaccine. But 2 cities allow people 12 and older to consent to getting the vaccine by themselves. Those are Philadelphia and San Francisco, where doctors administering the dose must try to contact the minor's legal guardian and give them the chance to object to the dose. And in New York City, kids are being incentivized to get the vaccine with Marvel Comics, with the city's health commissioner turning out to support the cause.
There are still kids who are getting hospitalized and unfortunately who are dying from COVID-19. It's not just that serious illness, it's also the longer term effects of COVID, which scientifically we're still understanding.
According to medical journal JAMA Network, minors under 14 don't have the mental capacity or maturity to make good judgments about their health care. The journal says while kids 12 to 14 could consent on their own, the doctor should notify the parents, but think twice before doing so if that might get the kid in trouble. All this while the Harvard Medical School says children who get COVID usually have no symptoms, or mild ones if any, and that they don't contribute to the spread of the virus for the most part. But in Arizona, if a parent doesn't give consent, a court order can be had to allow for vaccination if the kid or their doctor requests it. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
New developments on the January 6th Capitol breach. Capitol police officers attacked that day are suing former President Trump, among others. And the January 6th committee issues its first sweeping record requests. Here are the details.
7 Capitol police officers who were attacked during the Capitol breach filed a lawsuit Thursday against former President Donald Trump, Trump allies like Roger Stone, and members of the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. The suit accuses them of intentionally sending a violent mob to the Capitol to disrupt the certification of the election. It states Trump worked with white supremacists, violent extremist groups, and campaign supporters to violate the Ku Klux Klan Act and commit acts of domestic terrorism in an unlawful effort to stay in power. Last week, Reuters exclusively reported that according to current and former law enforcement officials, the FBI's found little evidence that the Capitol attack was part of an organized plot to overturn the election results. No official report has yet been released. On Wednesday, the congressional committee investigating January 6th issued its first requests for documents from several government agencies. Among the demands are all communications from April 1st, 2020 through January 20th, 2021 between the White House and numerous Trump advisors, staffers, and family members, as well as a number of conservative journalists and activists. Conservative activist and senior editor of Human Events, Jack Posobiec, who's on the list, said of the request, "This is completely illegal, and my lawyers will make short work of it." Trump responded to the news in a statement late Wednesday, calling the committee's request a partisan sham and waste of taxpayer dollars, and said the timing was intended to distract. Trump indicated he will invoke executive privilege to block the committee from obtaining the communications, saying, "Executive privilege will be defended not just on behalf of my administration and the patriots who worked beside me, but on behalf of the office of the President of the United States and the future of our nation."
And the White House says it's closely following threats from an ISIS offshoot in Afghanistan known as ISIS-K. The K stands for Khorasan, an area around the Afghanistan-Pakistan border.
ISIS-K claims to be a branch of the main ISIS terror group, which gained power in Syria and Iraq 7 years ago. Experts say ISIS-K, comprised of some veteran jihadists from Syria and elsewhere, has lost ground and manpower since 2018, but still has a presence in eastern Afghanistan and has formed cells in Kabul. In total, according to a UN report, they're believed to have between 1,500 and 2,200 fighters in Afghanistan.
A lot of these are former Taliban who slapped on the ISIS patch in order to sort of make themselves the biggest, baddest guys on the block.
But ISIS-K is now a sworn enemy of the Taliban.
The Taliban are fighting them. Really, it's local rivalries.
Why, more broadly, have the two notorious terror groups turned on each other?
For a number of reasons. Those range from ideological to political to military. Frankly, ISIS doesn't believe in a political agenda. ISIS believes that only God can rule. And even though the Taliban is attempting to establish an Islamic emirate, that's not enough for ISIS. ISIS is a bit more hardcore.
So hardcore, according to analyst Colin Clark, that ISIS-K is thought to be even more draconian than the Taliban. In areas they control, he says, they impose harsh Sharia law, execute civilians and others who they suspect are spies.
They want to attract and recruit the most ardent sociopaths in the country, and their calling card is this, rapacious and wanton violence against anyone that stands in their way. That actually helps them bring in other fighters into the organization that have a similar mindset.
Some of those fighters have been sprung from Afghan prisons. ISIS-K has carried out several devastating suicide bombing attacks in Afghanistan in recent years, including an attack on a school for girls this spring, which, according to a Pentagon assessment, killed at least 68 people, most of them girls.
An Austrian mountain biker lands a massive high-flying stunt during a big sporting event in Germany on Wednesday. The complicated trick is said to be a world first.
The front flip heel clicker trick involves doing a forward flip while also shooting your legs forward in the front of the bike to click your heels before pulling them back and finding the pedals and sticking the landing. Russo and his crew erupted in triumph as soon as he successfully completed the audacious trick.
My day was absolutely crazy. First off, we had a beautiful sunrise session here in the big old quarry in Birkenfeld, Germany. And afterwards in the evening, I was super, super happy and glad to land my first ever front flip heel clicker. It's actually a world's first trick, so I'm super pumped for it and can't believe it, to be honest.
The Austrian pulled off the stunt on a 16.5-foot kicker, the largest ramp at the Audi 9's venue in southwest Germany. Complicating things further, Russo did the stunt on a downhill mountain bike, which is heavier than a hardtail mountain bike, the kind that freestyle feats tend to be done on. The Audi 9's 2021 kicked off on Tuesday and will run through Sunday, meaning more daring and first-ever stunts could still be coming in the next few days.
A group of 8 Ukrainian strength athletes set a national record on Thursday by pulling the world's largest and heaviest cargo plane.
The athletes managed to move the plane for 14 feet within 1 minute and 13 seconds. A representative of Ukraine's national record book said they will apply for the Guinness record. The plane is an Antonov 225, also known as Mira. It's the largest and heaviest cargo plane in the world. There is only one operational Mira. It can carry up to 250 tons and travel for up to 2,485 miles. Mira, built in the Soviet Union in 1988, was developed to transport the Soviet Buran space shuttle or other heavy components. With the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Buran program was shut down and the plane was left on the territory of independent Ukraine.
You expect nature when you're on vacation in the countryside, but families were surprised when 2 stags turned up and plonked themselves in the front garden of their holiday rental.
The majestic male deer were seen pushing themselves through the undergrowth as people watched from a distance in the scenic Italian town of Valletta Baria. Visitors now travel to the site to see the herd of deer, who seem to take all the attention in stride. The average weight of an adult stag is between 180 to 220 pounds, and their antlers typically measure about 28 inches in length. So probably a good idea not to get too close.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to catch all of our programs on TV. NTD Evening News is on every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Find your local NTD channel at ntd.com/TV.